morning, everybody. Welcome to my channel. This is Michelle with Creative Operation and Country Craft Creations, and I'm going to share with you a tutorial today that I came up with. It is called a configuration tag slash card slash album, and I think you're really going to like it. I've had some questions about what I mean when I say something is a configuration. I've done albums where I made configuration pages, and what I mean by that is that I take paper and with strategic scores and cuts and folds can create multiple, different layouts from the same kind of cut and score and fold. I have done multiple pages with this, multiple albums with this, and you can go through my video list and check them out. And the other night I was sitting here and I was kind of thinking about, what to do with some scraps that I had because, I do have some scraps left over from my creations, and this idea popped in my head. So I went ahead and started working on it. So I made some examples. I'm going to show you the examples, and then I'm going to show you how to put them together. So today, what I wanted to focus on is that I'm using the love letters, and I actually created an album out of this, and that's what I'm going to show you how to create. I'll show you how to create both of them, but the album that I used with this configuration, I'm using love letters. Now this is a Country Craft Creations paper collection that's exclusive to Country Craft Creations, and it is absolutely a very stunning kind of rustic vintage feel for a beautiful paper. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now you'll notice that half of the cover sheet for the paper collection is missing because I wanted to show you I actually used part of it and I cut it, and I used pieces of these down here, the other strip that was down here, to help make embellishments for that. So anyways, I'll show you that when we get to it. But again, this is Country Craft Creations. Now all the examples I made today are from Country Craft Creations. So let's get started. I'll show you what I did, and then I'm going to show you how to put it together. So I have my tea ready, and we are good to go. So the first one that I did, I used, these are all Country Craft Creations papers. This is called Love is in the Air. And this was my first attempt at this project, and it turned out really good. It actually came out exactly the way I thought it was going to come out. And it's a giant tag. It is 9 inches tall by 5 inches wide. And the back of it, this one I left plain. I put one of the cut aparts from the paper collection on the back. I put an eyelet on the bigger tag. I'll show you that in a minute. Put the tag, or put the ties in there. And then I did just a plain, kind of a ribbon closure that I had in my stash. And so what this does is when you open this, you have this little page here, and then you have a little tuck spot here for a picture. This is all blank, so you could put pictures here. And then when you open it up, I made a layout with some papers, and then you could tuck the pictures behind the cut apart. Decorated this pocket, and then in the pocket, I added some tags. So I had a little scrap of paper. I thought the envelope and the balloons were really super cute, so I made a tag out of that. I used journaling cards and made photo mats, and then out of one of the larger cut aparts, I created a card. So this would be a really awesome gift to give to somebody for Valentine's Day. If you did it in birthday papers or whatever, it would be a great card. And I just thought it was really fun to make. So this is a configuration. This is made out of one sheet of 12 by 12 paper, the base of it. And then I just used scraps to finish it, and it turned out really pretty. This part here, Love is in the Air, that actually came from the cover sheet of the paper collection. And I just thought it was perfect. And then this beautiful little gal, I had one single strip that had her in it, and I really wanted to use her on the front. So this turned out really cute. Then I thought I needed an envelope for it. So I'm going to show you how to make the envelope that this would actually fit into. So if you wanted to give this as a gift, as a card, you could send it in the mail even. It's just a policy style envelope, and I used a circle punch and just punched a piece of the pattern paper out to create kind of a envelope seal with that. So that was my first one. And then I had some paper left over from my wedding album that I did. So I wanted to create a card that would use some of the wedding paper and all my scraps. So I had this beautiful lady here. I added some of the lace patterns from the paper here. Added some bling that was from my stash, more lace here. This piece of paper wasn't quite wide enough, so I used a border strip here. Then I used the lace strip that I fussy cut out here, and then I put the beads, or the pearls, I should say, over top of the seam, and it just made it absolutely beautiful, I think. Really a stunning paper. I used seam binding closure. On the back, I had this one image that I used on the back. And again, this is the same size. It's 5 inches wide by 9 inches tall. And I just love the imagery in this paper collection. When you open this one up, you have this beautiful paper here. And I left this open just because I just love the paper so much. I used a cut apart here to make a tuck spot for a little coin there. And then inside, there was a piece of this marriage certificate cut apart that I put in and made a little card. And then I took the last graphic 45 tag that I had, and I created this beautiful tag with that beautiful image there. On the back, I left it blank, so you could put a picture there. You could do all kinds of stuff. But I didn't have a whole lot of leftovers from that collection, so I went ahead and made that. And I just thought that turned out really pretty too. Now you'll notice that on the tags, I only put the eyelet on the big tag because this one here is obviously shorter or less wide, I should say. And I didn't want the ties to kind of compete with each other because then it would be offset and that would bother me. So I only did an eyelet in the back, and I just think that turned out really pretty. Again, everything, one 12 by 12 piece of paper that's scored and cut and folded strategically, and you make this beautiful card. Well, then I thought, what could I do to make this into an album? So I created an album out of this. Now, this is using the Love Letters collection that I told you I was going to use. And I've done 3 projects, and I had some leftover paper, so I decided, what could I do with this to make it an album? So what I did was I made 2 of these tags, and I put them together. So the front and the back are held by magnets, and when you open it up, this little ticket here, you could tuck a picture under here. I left this open, and I did mat it with some frosted rose, I think it was, cardstock that came in my design team package, and put the image there. Open it up, there's more tickets. You can stick a picture underneath them, and then your big pocket. And then I used just some cut aparts from the collection and created tags to put in the pocket. Again, I used an eyelet. This time I put a bow on there. So then it closes up. I used 2 small magnets, one up and one down. And then, on the front here, this was a doily from my collection, so I used that. And then I have these wooden hearts that I really loved, and I put them, this is where I used the strip from my cover sheet, and I covered my wooden hearts with that and made an embellishment out of that. So you could even do this, with cardstock. Several layers of cardstock would make kind of the same thing, but it added a little dimension to it. So I did that, tucked a ticket under there, and that's the front of the album. So then the back, same thing, had this doily in my stash. I covered a wooden heart. It opens up, there's 2 magnets, again, another ticket, and more tickets here, more opportunity for photos, and then in here, 2 more of the smaller cut aparts, and then 1 of the larger cut apart backed on cardstock. So I figured out a way to connect these 2 pieces so that when you open them up, you have this as well. So this is my tag album, and I did a little waterfall here that will fit 3 by 4 pictures. And on here, I took, again, one of the images from the cover sheet, backed it on cardstock, and it made a great embellishment. And then I put 2 tickets under there. These are glued down, they don't come out, but that was part of kind of the cover embellishment. And then I just created a little waterfall out of my scraps, and it just turned out really beautiful, I think. And then over here, created a pocket. I had 2 of my graphic 45 tags, and I covered them on the back with cardstock, but on the front with the pattern paper pieces. And then another wooden heart for a decoration. So I'm going to show you how to make the tags. I'm going to show you how to put 2 tags together to create an album, so you have an option here. And then I'm also going to show you how to create the envelope. So let's get started with the tag. Now I drew up some diagrams and I'm hoping that this will help you kind of visualize how to do this. So this again is one 12 by 12 piece of paper, and just depending on where we score and where we cut and how we fold it is going to give you your tag. So you're going to take your paper, and I'm going to show you on the scoreboard, and I thought because some of these scores only go to certain points, this would be the easiest way to show you how to do this. So let me make sure that we are in frame, and we are. I'm going to have a sip of tea because it's really early. I love tea. Okay, so our configuration tag card. So you're going to take your 12 by 12, put it in your scoreboard, and the first thing you're going to do is score at 4 inches all the way down, and then at 9 inches all the way down. We're going to turn it counterclockwise, one turn, and then what you're going to do is you're going to score at 2 inches, but you're only going to go to that one score line, okay? Don't go through the back. This piece here is 9 by 5, and that's going to be the back of your tag. So you only want to actually score down to here. This is actually just going to be so that we know where to cut. So that's why we're doing that. It's going to give us a guideline. Then you're going to do it at 7 inches. You're going to also do that only to that first score line that we did. And then you're going to go to the 9-inch mark, and you're going to score that one completely all the way down. All right. So the 2 and the 7 on this side only to this score line, the 9-inch one all the way down. And then what we're going to do is turn it again counterclockwise, and we're going to score at 2.5 only to the score line. What that's going to do is going to give us guidelines for cutting our tabs, which is going to create our pocket. And then you're going to go to 8.5 and do the same thing, only to that score line, okay? So I'm going to go through this one more time so that we're all on the same page. So we're going to put it up right, and we're going to start by scoring at 4 inches all the way down, at 9 inches all the way down. Turn counterclockwise and put your paper in. Score at 2 only to the score line. Score at 7 only to that first score line. And then at 9 all the way down. Turn it again counterclockwise. Score at 2.5 only to that first score line, okay? And then at 8.5 only to that first score line, and that's it, okay? So then we get rid of our scoreboard, and then I'm gonna show you here. I have X'd out and put red markings here and here, so we're gonna take this square out, and over here where we made these 1/2-inch scores here, those are gonna create tabs. So we're gonna cut up that and then angle them just a little bit just to make the tabs for when we fold it and create our pocket. And then this whole piece here will be gone, and then we're going to cut this piece out and do the tab the same way. Okay, so I'm going to cut one with you. I have one already pre-scored. So again, we're going to cut out like this section here, and this section here, okay? And I know you can't see the scores on this one because I actually wanted to use this to kind of make it. So we're gonna grab our scissors. So the first thing, the easiest part, let's cut out this top corner here. So you're just gonna follow, and I'm going to cut right at the edge of that score. So I wanna cut that score completely out so you don't have your indents to your score. And I'm trying to turn it so I can see my scores. I obviously didn't score this very deep. So it's a little bit hard, but we're gonna cut that piece out. All right, so we have our top corner cut out completely. And then we're gonna go, and here's my 1/2-inch score. So what I did was I just mitered it to that 1/2-inch, and then I'm gonna cut up, and then I'm just gonna miter it again to the corner. All right, and then I'm gonna cut straight up that score. Okay, so what I've done was I've cut here, up here, I did a cut, and then all the way straight up, and then now we're just gonna cut that part completely out. And this is what I mean by kind of a configuration. And don't ask me how I come up with this stuff. I have no idea. I just get these ideas in my head, and then I do it, and it sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't, but you know. Now, this part here, what we're gonna do first is, I found it easier because of the kind of nature of the angle here, is to cut this line first. So again, I'm gonna just cut the score all the way up. Okay, so I'm cutting clear through to the score line we did at 4 inches, okay? Then what I'm gonna do is cut that tab out. Now, I'm not being too awful careful with my pieces, but if you wanted to conserve paper, be careful, and then you can use these pieces for other things, okay? So this is what you should have now, okay? So we've cut out this corner, and all of this, and we have our tabs and everything. So then when you get done with that, you're gonna take your paper and we're gonna fold on the score lines. And then when you fold them, this is going to create our piece. All right, so there's that little flap here. Boy, I really didn't score this paper very well at all. That's okay. This is a demo. And if it doesn't work out, then I won't finish it as far as the cutting. So if I do get a little bit crooked, I want to cut that piece off, make sure everything's nice and straight. All right. And then we're going to fold our tabs in. And when I fold them in, I'm kind of nudging them in a little bit so that they kind of fit in between these two folds a little bit. So I'm kind of trying to nudge them in just a hair. And then you're going to fold this up. All right, so that's our tag. Okay, that's basically our tag right there. So go ahead and re-burnish all of your folds, and if you have anything that, you know, needs to be trimmed up, now's the time to do it. So then what I did was, I have a punch for an angle and my corner rounder, and I also have a corner chomper that does an angle too. So however you want to do this. I like this guy, but, because he seems to be the easiest for me. And this paper is pretty thin. So I'm just going to, with it folded, I'm going to chomp out that corner, and then I'm going to open it up. I'm going to chomp out this corner and this corner. Okay, so now I have my tag shapes at the top. All right, and they match perfectly here. And then I'm going to round the corners here. That's what I wanted to do. And basically this is ready to go. All you have to do is glue the pocket down and cover it with pattern papers, and you have your tag. All right, that's super simple. So let's go ahead and just glue these down. Now, if you want to use this as a tag card, then you are basically done. Okay, you just need to decorate it, add whatever you want to it, any embellishments that you want to put on here. You can do a ribbon seam binding enclosure, you can use magnets, however you want to do that. The envelope that goes with this is very simple as well. So let me get this out of the way. 12 by 12 piece of paper, and we're going to put it in our scoreboard, and we're going to score at 3 1/4 and at 8 3/4. Then we're going to turn it, and I just did it clockwise this time, but that's okay. Either way, it doesn't matter. 1/2 inch, and then at 10 1/4. And that's all you need to do. And then what you're going to do is you're going to cut it out so you can make a big policy envelope. So we'll cut out these pieces here and miter the bottom tab. That's going to be the bottom of your envelope. And then we're going to cut out these pieces here and miter the top, and that's going to be your top flap. So once you get that done, you should have a piece that looks like this. And I just rounded the corners, and then you just simply fold it over and we can glue it down. Now, since these flaps kind of overlap each other, and if you Want to make sure that you get glue where you need to so that everything stays nice and glued. Put your glue on one edge of that, and then this edge here. I'm doing it in the air, so that helps. And then just fold it over, and then you fold over your bottom, or your, excuse me, this is your top flap. You just fold over your bottom, and then you're good to go, and your envelope is done. Okay, super simple. Now on the envelope, you could either, once you get it done, you could actually glue it down if you wanted to. I usually, when I make my envelopes, I take a piece of score tape and put it on there, and then that way, when I'm ready to, you know, put my project in here and glue it down, then I'm ready to go, and I can just peel off the tape and glue it down. And then on the envelope that I made in the example, I just used a little cut apart and did like kind of a little envelope seal. I glued it on the flap, and then I put another little piece of score tape so that I can glue it all down. And that's what I did with that. So that's how you make the envelope. So now, then what I, you know, was thinking was that, what if I wanted to make this into an album? So let me show you how to do that. It's super simple. So I made 2 of these examples. Okay, they're both exactly the same. Now, if you wanted to do it opposite of each other, just score the card the opposite way so that the tag, or you could fold it the opposite way so the tag comes over here, pocket goes up, and then that way when you put it on, it's opposite. You could do that. I left them the same. I just felt like doing that because I was experimenting. So then you need some sort of a connector to connect the 2 pieces. So I did 2 different examples here. So one of them, this first one here, is 2 1/4 by 8 1/2, and I scored at 1 inch on each side, which gave me 1/4 of an inch gusset. Now, when I did that, and I absolutely loved it, but you can't put a whole lot in because there's only 1/4 of an inch spine. So if you want to be able to put more in there, here are the measurements for a 1/2 inch spine. So you could do either way that you want to do. So this one's 2 1/2 by 8 1/2, and I just scored in 1 inch on each side, and that gave me my 1/2 inch gusset. So whichever way you want to do that. So I made it, my example was with a 1/4 inch spine, but this one I'll do a 1/2 inch spine, and then that way I'll have a little bit more room, so you could add a few more things if you wanted to, or more embellishments, so that you have just a little bit more room. But if you want a more skinny type little album, then the 1/4 inch was just fine. It worked perfectly for this. So you basically just fold on the scores, and then I'm going to miter just a little bit. Like so. And then we're going to glue them together. So this will be, the actual flat parts are going to be on the outside. So we're going to glue it on the plain insides. So we're just going to simply glue them down, and that's all we're going to do. So let's do that. Put it together. Doing this really super quick, because this is really, really easy to do. And it didn't take much paper at all. And I was able to use up some scraps. Okay, so we're going to glue this next one down. And then I did use 1 inch because I just wanted a little bit more stability since it was a connector doing this. So that's why I did that. And I'm just going to line this up. Make sure everything's lined up and glue that down. Okay, and there you go. That's all you have to do to connect the 2. Now inside is like where you can go to town and do whatever you want to do. So there is the tag configuration album. So again, if you reversed the tag, then if that would mean that this piece here would be coming out this way. You could use a ribbon closure out of the things. I went and used magnets and then used a ribbon closure to actually put these 2 together, and I adhered the ribbon on the inside. That's how I did that. On the inside, I made a pocket for the right side. So I cut a piece at 6 by 3.5, and I scored at 1/2 inch all the way around. And then what I did was I measured in from the score lines. Once I got them scored, I measured in 1.5 inches from the top right edge and 1.5 inches down from the left, and then I cut that angle off. And that's how I created my pocket. So I went ahead and did that example. That will go here. And then the pattern paper to cover, cut a piece that's 4 7/8 wide by 2 7/8 inch tall, and then cut the same exact angle by measuring in 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches down, and then cut that angle off, and then you'll get the same piece of paper to cover your pocket. So that'll work absolutely perfect. So that will go here. And then the waterfall, again, super simple to do. I created an example, but it goes here, and it will hold 4 by 3 pictures. So I cut a piece that's one at 3 1/8 by 10 3/4, one at 3 1/8 by 9 3/4, and then one at 3 1/8 by 8 3/4. And they're all scored the same. Put them in your scoreboard and score at 4 1/8, and then turn and score at 4 1/8, and that'll give you your waterfall pieces. And then this is a stacked waterfall, so y'all have seen me do this before, but basically you just, after you score and burnish, all right, so this is the bigger piece. It has kind of the bigger spine. And one of the reasons why I like to do these stacked waterfalls is because I find it easier to make sure that everything is lined up perfectly. And I only have 3 pieces to deal with instead of like 6 or however many you end up making, depending on what you want to do. So I really like this method of making my waterfalls, and it works out pretty good. Takes a little bit of math depending on how big you want your waterfalls, but I really like it. And I did do a video, and it's how to make a stacked waterfall, and I talked about different sizes and how to figure it out, and I will link that below. But for this particular album, because of the nature of the size, so when you put it in here, the score should line up at 4 1/8. So I am going to line up the score of this folded piece, the next piece, at 4 5/8. So it's 1/2 inch space in between your pages. And then whoop, just make sure it's burnished down. I know I'm doing this very quickly. So if this was actually a project, I would be a little more careful with all of this. And so then it's 4 5/8. So then we would go to 5 1/8. That would be 1/2 inch away to score that, or to lay that down. And then we should have a perfect waterfall with 1/2 inch gussets. And then you fold it down, and there you have it. And then this piece here in the back, that's what you glue to your project. All right. So we would put glue here and then glue that down. But make sure that you put your pattern paper on this side first, because this will lay right on top. And basically that's it. So that is my tutorial for my tag card album and envelope. So again, I did a 1/4 inch spine here, but on the example I used 1/2 inch. That gives you a little bit more room. But I added seam binding closure underneath the pattern paper as well for the waterfall. So just make sure if you want to do a seam binding closure, or if you want to do a tab with a magnet closure, however you want to do that. You can see that the seam binding for the closure of this album is underneath my pattern paper on the inside. My pocket is here, and I cut the paper as I told you, and you can just fill it full and have a really cute little mini album card that's, fairly good size. If you choose to just make one, it makes a really nice card, and you have room to put a sentiment, gift cards. You could put photos here, write a letter, however you want to do it. I just think it's turned out to be a really cute project, and I love the fact that it took one piece of 12 by 12 paper to make it, and with just a few cuts and folds, you have quite a cute little project. So, and then the envelope to go with it, if you wish to give it as a card or want to send it, it turned out really cute. So that's my project. So this is my configuration tag card album, and I hope you enjoyed it. The papers are love letters, Here Comes the Bride, and Love is in the Air. These are all Country Craft Creations exclusive papers. They are all available at countrycraftcreations.com, and I know that you are going to love them when you get them. So please head on over to Country Craft Creations and check it out, and stay tuned because I have more tutorials coming. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.